Ratna Bhushan, a friend, motivator, and guide to IAS aspirant, international motivational speaker, leadership trainer, CEO, coach, political strategist, and policy advisor. Welcome to ASG. ASG believe in quality, commitment, and success. So much depends on reputation. Guard it with your life. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Reputation is the cornerstone of power. Through reputation alone, you can intimidate and win. Once it slips, however, you are vulnerable and will be attacked on all sides. Make your reputation unassailable. Make your reputation unassailable. Always be alert to potential attacks and thwart them before they happen. Meanwhile, learn to destroy your enemies by opening holes in their own reputation. Then stand aside and let public opinion hang them. This quote I have taken from the book The 48 Laws of Power, written by Robert Greene. The most important fact of today's are source the Hindu newspaper. Bahrain set to ink deals with Israel. PM Netanyahu will sign agreement with Emirati and Bahraini foreign ministers at the White House. The United Arab Emirates and Bahrain on Tuesday will become the latest Arab state to break long-standing taboo and they sign agreements toward the normalizing relation with Israel in the strategic realignment of West Asian countries against Iran. US President Donald Trump was due to host the White House ceremony around noon, capping a dramatic month when first the UAE and then Bahrain agreed to reverse the decades of ill will without a resolution of Israel decades-old disputes with the Palestinians. At the US brokered event, Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will sign agreement with Emirates foreign ministers Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan and Bahraini foreign ministers Abdul Latif Al Jayani. The deals make them the third and fourth Arab state to take such a step normalizes ties since Israel signed peace treaties with Egypt in 1979 and Jordan in 1994. The UAE's Ministers of State for Foreign Affairs Anwar Gargas said on Tuesday his country's decision to normalize relations with Israel had broken the psychological barrier and was the way forward for the region, creating more leverage. New powers for aviation regulators. Hardeep Puri says the changes were necessary for growth of the sector. Aircraft Amendment Bill 2020, which was passed by the Lok Sabha on March 17, was passed by the Parliament on Tuesday after a heated discussion on the Rajya Sabha over a privatization of airports. Upper House passed the bill by a voice vote. The bill gives statutory powers to the Directorate General of the Civil Aviation Bureau of Civil Aviation Security and the Aircraft Accident Investigations Bureau. Civil Aviation Minister Hardeep Puri said changes were necessary for the growth of the sector. The bill empowered the DGCA to levy enhanced penalties up to 1 crore from the existing 10 lakh on airlines, airports, and other aviation entities. The amendment also addressed several regulatory shortcomings that were highlighted by the aviation watchdogs of the United Nations and US, the International Civil Aviation Organization, and the Federal Aviation Authority during their audits on the safety and security in the Indian aviation ecosystem. The changes include recognizing regulatory bodies such as the Bureau of Civil Aviation Security and Aircraft Accident Investigations Bureau, which was set up through the various government notifications but did not have a defined role under the Parent Act as well as air navigation services. Mixed reactions. During the decision, Congress MP K.C. Venugopal hit out the government over the privatization of 6 airports that had been given to Adani Group. He demanded an inquiry into the matter, saying it was a crony capitalism. Aircraft Authority of India has become AAA, Airports Authority of Adani. Mr. Venugopal alleged BJP MP GVIL Narayan Simha Rao responded by saying that the real crony capitalism was the prevent in the UPA government's tenure in 2G spectrum and coal block auction. The next most important news is Venus in Focus. International collaboration can help probe the dense atmosphere of Earth's neighbor. Venus, the hottest planet in the solar system. Venus, the hottest planet of the solar system. Venus, the hottest planet in the solar system. Venus, the hottest planet in the solar system, has not enjoyed as much recent attention as Mars as far as space missions are concerned. With a surface temperature of above 460 degrees Celsius that can melt even a metal like a lead, and heavy atmosphere of carbon dioxide, and planet was considered hostile to life. This despite its being similar to size of Earth and rocky, so much so that it is often called the Earth's sister planet. Earth's sister planet. Venus is a Earth's sister planet. Venus is a Earth's sister planet. Venus is a Earth's sister planet. There was some excitement when the European Space Agency mission Venus Express found sign apozone made of 3 oxygen atoms and considered a biomarker in the upper atmosphere of Venus in 2011. But the recent discovery of traces of the phosphine, another biomarker in its atmosphere, just given the search for the extraterrestrial life, a shot in the form. Phosphine, a compound of 1 phosphorus atom and 3 hydrogen atoms, is given by some of the microbes during biochemical process. In an atmosphere rich in the carbon dioxide, it is likely to be destroyed soon. However, the researchers estimated that phosphine forms about 20 parts per billion of Venus' atmosphere. This fact, when added to the hostile condition on its surface, yields tantalizing possibility of the phosphine survival through the extraordinary chemistry and thermodynamics of the stubborn triumph of the biology and life. This finding was the result of the years of the careful study by a team of the international astronomers led by Jane S. Greaves of the Cardiff University and was announced in a paper published in Nature Astronomy. Professor Greaves first identified phosphine in Venus' atmosphere in 2017 using the James Clerk Maxwell telescope in Hawaii. Further study and precise observation using the Atacama Large Sub-Millimeter Array Facility in Chile confirmed the suspicions of the researchers in 2019. They were caution exercised by the researchers in announcing the fact underlines the lack of knowledge about these systems and the need to make sure before celebrating discovery of extraterrestrial life. This can now only be taken further by taking in situ measurements in the atmosphere of Venus. This poses its own challenges. Apart from the high surface temperature and dense atmosphere, the presence of sulfuric acid in the atmosphere of the Venus makes it a highly corrosive environment. Perhaps flying at the height of the sending down to drones and balloons would be more feasible than landing. Mission to Venus have been planned by NASA and ISRO. While NASA's mission is slated for the last launch next year, ISRO is looking for 2023 right now. As is not uncommon in a space mission, as part of the collaborations may be well improved chances of efficiently probing the dense atmosphere of the planetary neighbor. The next this is the editorial of the Hindu newspaper, Lesson from an Immortal Conversation. Today, as India confronts some of the biggest strategic challenges that are deep inside that Mahabharata can offer. This article was written by Amitabh Mattu, 1991, close to his death. Bimal Krishna Mittal, the Spandling Professor of Eastern Religions and Ethics at All Souls College of Oxford, wrote one of its final pieces, a brilliant polemical essay, Krishna, a dance of a devious divinity, brought to my attention by his favorite student, the genius Hiraman Tiwari. The article challenged the Western view of the apparently less than godly conduct of Krishna before and during the war on the battlefield of Kurukshetra in 2012, inspired in part of the Matilal and the compendium of essay of Mahabharata edited by McGill's Arvind Sharma. I wrote in this Delhi, December 11, 2012. If all the books on war and peace were to suddenly disappear from the world, and the only Mahabharata remained, it would be good enough to capture almost all the possible debates on order, justice, force, and the moral dilemmas as associated with the choices that are made on those issues within the realm of international politics. On strategic thinking, my article, along with other writings, was an attempt of confronting a major Western critique of India. A Eurocentric belief that India and Indians had only episodically written about strategic issues and that there was no real culture of the strategic thinking in India. The American think tank Rand's vice president George K. Tanham said, put his Strachey in his 1992 paper Indian Strategic Thought, an interpretative essay commissioned by the US Undersecretary for the Foreign, in which he argued that the India elite had been systematically. Since then, many scholars, including at JNU, have reviewed different traditions of strategic thinking in India, from Ashok's post-Kaling idealism to the more predictive, hard-headed realism of Kautilya to the more critical traditions of thinking about war and peace. Fortunately, we also now have the benefit of the External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar book, The India Way Strategic from the Uncertain World. S. Jaishankar book, The India Way, Strategic from an Uncertain World, which recognizes the importance of the Mahabharata in a deeply perceptive chapter, Krishna's Choice, the strategic culture of rising power, a must read for all the students of the foreign policy. Earlier, we had an inspiring account of Amrita Narlikar and Arun Narlikar bargaining with a rising India, lesson from the Mahabharata. Limited scrutiny. However, even today, in contrast with industry and researchers who have devoted themselves to studying Chinese strategic culture, the interest in India's thinking is still limited. This must change, not in the nativist or a revivalist fashions or by necessary emphasizing India's exceptionalism, but to understand that India's strategic culture acts as an important intervening variable between power, interest, and material capabilities on one hand and the higher purpose of the strategic on the other. Today, as India confronts some of the biggest strategic challenges, there are deep insight that the Mahabharata offers us, including from the immortal dialogue between Krishna and Arjun. For a Professor Matilal's Western critic, Krishna is a riddle. Krishna is a riddle, a paradox. If anything, he appears to be a devious diplomat.